big news from the NFL, and it is another blow to Aaron Rodgers and the Packers offense. Their all-pro center, Corey Linsley, agreeing to a 5-year contract with the LA Chargers worth $62.5 million. That makes him the top-paid center in the league. And so in a year that we just keep talking about, well, what are the Packers going to add for Aaron Rodgers? Now that's a pretty significant loss. Dan Graziano, what could you tell us?
Well, they anticipated it. Look, I think Corey Linsley was going to hit the agency, was going to cash in big. The Packers are in a situation where they don't have a ton of cap room to make big additions, but they anticipated they would lose Linsley. They certainly have a plan in place for replacing him. There's a lot of free agent center inventory on the market, and I don't think this is a gigantic point of concern for Green Bay. I think they'll obviously fill the position. I think the bigger issue on their offensive line is how soon they'll be able to get left tackle David Bakhtiari back from the injury he suffered late last season. They may need to find somebody to patch that spot in the short term.
So the Packers may have seen this coming, but you always wonder about Aaron Rodgers' mindset with all this. Again, Louis Riddick, we keep talking about who are they going to add. Now they lose a pretty important piece. How do you see it?
Yeah, I see it a little bit differently than Dan. Look, I think, again, the signal caller positions on a football team right down the middle of the roster are critical. They're absolutely critical. Quarterback, center, Mike linebacker, safety. These guys are the front-facing guys. They're the guys who talk and set the tone for everyone else in the huddle and then before the ball is snapped. And Corey Linsley is the guy who is setting the protections up front. Now, I understand that Aaron Rodgers is someone who can help mitigate some of that, but that is a critical position. I mean, center, middle linebacker, these guys who are the talkers, who are the communicators, that's how you get your quarterback sacked because of protection bust and or communication bust. On the defensive side, that's how you give up big plays because people aren't on the same page because the guys who are the signal callers make mistakes. I don't think that's one of those where you just go, well, you know what? We'll just bring in another center, plug him in, and off, and away we go. I think it's much more intensive than that. It's much more critical than that. I understand that left tackle and David Bakhtiari's health is huge for them because that's the Audubon for the offensive line. That's where the speed demons are coming to try and wreck shop for as far as your quarterback is concerned. But if you don't know what you're doing and your center isn't on the same page as everyone else, then everything just kind of falls apart from there. So it'll be interesting to see how they wind up handling this. But it's one of those deals. I mean, there's a reason why the Chargers wanted him. There's a reason why they wanted him out there to help Justin Herbert. And that's because he's the rock. He's the centerpiece. Whenever we get Jeff Saturday back on here, whenever he comes out of, hiding wherever he is down there in Georgia, ask him how important centers are. I'm sure he'll tell you. I'm sure he could go on for hours about
it. Whether we want him to or not. Yes, I agree with you on that. But Torrey, let me come over to you then on that situation here because, the team that beat them is Tampa Bay, and all we're talking about is how they're bringing everybody back, and we got guys up here talking about them going unbeaten, and I'm Aaron Rodgers, and I'm watching this, and I'm saying, what the heck is going on with me? How do you see it all, Torrey Smith?
I mean, Lewis is right. The center is the quarterback of the offensive line, but the reality of it is it's a lot easier to replace someone on the interior offensive line than it is to replace your tackles on the outside. You see all of these DNs making all of this money? The big guys on the outside are the guys that have to block them. However, for this team, if I'm Aaron Rodgers, you knew that you can't keep everyone. That's the price of being great. When you're a team that's winning and your salary cap looks a certain way, sometimes you can't retain everyone. And clearly they knew he was going to walk. I believe that they have a plan or they trust that there's a guy that they can get in free agency moving forward. But for Aaron Rodgers' perspective, you can't count on keeping everyone each and every year. And they didn't lose in the NFC Championship game because of protection on the interior side of the ball. There were more issues going on. So this is something that they should be able to overcome.
I get it, but at the same time, I mean, look, we talk about how you're going to lose players because you were great, and they've been very good. But this is sort of the Packers' way. They keep not winning it all and then losing players. Dan, I know we have this argument all the time here. I get that they've won 26 regular season games the last 2 years, but they haven't been in the game that really matters. And now they're losing pieces because you can't keep a championship team together. The only thing they're missing is the championship in that equation.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, you just can't add a piece and instantly get a championship, right? I mean, the Packers have played in more postseason games and won more postseason games than anybody but the Patriots this century. Like, it's the best you can do is give yourself a chance. I think Tom Brady has kind of wrecked it for the rest of the world, assuming that the only way it's a success is if you win a championship. Packers are a team that constantly puts themselves in that position, and yes, has come through just the one time during Aaron Rodgers' career. But look, I mean, Aaron Rodgers and Corey Linsley are certainly close, and I'm sure Aaron Rodgers knew that Corey Linsley was going to go find money in free agency, and that the Packers probably weren't going to be the team that gave it to him. This is not some out-of-the-blue shocker for Aaron Rodgers or the Packers.
I think if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm cranky right now, to be completely honest with you. I'm going to leave it there for the moment. We'll have much more on the NFL. Hunter Henry yesterday, 3 years, $37.5 million, $25 million guaranteed, according to Shefty. And that had Julian Edelman yesterday going on Twitter as they bring in both Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. Edelman goes on Twitter because he's funny, and he pointed the Boston Tea Party, TE, referring to the Patriots signing both Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. So, Dan Graziano, what can you tell us, first and foremost, about the acquisition here of Henry and all these moves that the Patriots are making?
You know, it's like we discussed yesterday, Greeny. This was a roster that was full of holes and needed to be patched in a lot of places. Bill Belichick keenly aware of that, and also aware of the fact that this might be a market where you could get some deals, right? So it's a good year to go shopping and fill a bunch of holes in free agency because the cap went down and teams may not be spending like they usually do. In terms of Hunter Henry, having already signed Jonnu Smith, very interesting. We remember the days when the Patriots liked to run the two tight end sets with Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez. And we know that they like to operate an offense like that as opposed to pushing the ball downfield as much as possible. Cam Newton may be in a situation where you need guys that operate closer to the line of scrimmage. So it makes a lot of sense. Plus, the wide receiver market, you know, if anybody's been paying attention, hasn't been moving real quick. There are some concerns teams have about these top wide receivers. There are teams other than the Patriots that I know looked at Hunter Henry as potentially a better option than one of the top wide receiver free agents. So he's viewed more of a pass catching option than just a strict tight end. So I think that's how Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels looked at it as well.
It's a good way to look at it. And in the meantime, some people may very well be surprised at how aggressive the Patriots have been, but I can guarantee you, Louis Riddick is not one of those people. Here's what he said to us a month ago on this show.
Missing the playoffs, seeing Tom win the Super Bowl, having people doubt him now, people saying, well, it was more Tom than it was you, and that whole damn debate. I don't care how many Super Bowls he's been to or how many he has won. I promise you, he is sitting somewhere right now going, okay. But I would bet he has now, this year, I'll bet he comes out firing in a way you haven't seen in a long time.
So, Louis, you said he was going to come out firing, and I think this definitely fits the bill. So you saw it coming. What is your reaction to the moves that he's made?
Yeah, I take it a step further as far as it just being a lot of moves. I think these moves are all very, very strategic and really represent philosophically who Bill has always wanted to be, you know, from a team building standpoint. He wants to attack you inside out, make you defend the middle of the field first from inside out. I heard it over and over and over again in our meeting rooms back in Cleveland, and he went and got the people that allow him to do that like he could back in the heyday of New England. He wants to run 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, 2 wides, one and one running back because of the mismatches it gives you in the predicament it puts defenses in. Jonnu Smith is one of those guys who can line up all over the place. He can play running back. He could line up split out wide, and he's a guy who's very good in situational football in the red area. Hunter Henry, an absolute first down producing machine on third down. Defensively, he wanted to stop the run. He gets Davin Godchall. He wants more power on the edge. He has Matt Judon. He wanted more power to just punch people in the mouth on offense. Have you ever seen Trent Brown? This guy is like a skyscraper, and he's an absolute just rear end kicker. So all he did was, I'm going to build this thing exactly the way I've always done it, inside out, front to back, and I'm going to get guys who are great at situational football and who are versatile and multiple. And he's executing it to a T right now. Now it's all on the quarterback. It's all on Cam Newton and whether or not they wind up drafting somebody for the future. But right now, as far as team building is concerned, this is a clinic of how to run free agency. It's an absolute clinic.
Yeah, it worked out very well. They had money in a year when so many teams do not, and they've taken advantage of it. So, Tori, let's talk about the Cam of it all. How good do you think this team can be this year if Cam Newton is their quarterback?
Oh, this is a team that can contend right now. You know, Cam Newton plays his best ball, which I've seen firsthand what he's capable of doing. This is a team that can go a long way. Now, last year, the roster was completely different. Some of their best players were opted out because of the coronavirus. And now this year, they've reloaded and filled a lot of their weaknesses. Lewis, you said it perfectly when you talked about them building from the inside out. So when I see these tight ends, it reminds me of when we played against them when I was in Baltimore and they had Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski. You have those weapons on the outside. It takes on the inside, it takes pressure off of your receivers to win on the outside. Now they add Nelson Aguilar, a guy who I had the opportunity to play with in Philadelphia, who's one of the most explosive players I've been around. He's quick, he's extremely fast, and he can run every single route. So you have guys that can just play their role. You don't have to bring in superstar guys. Have guys that fit the system, and that's what Bill Belichick does best.
Yeah, so he's doing it, and they may not be done yet, as free agency officially doesn't begin until New England back and better than ever. Meanwhile, out in Green Bay, a superstar loses one of his most important teammates. Is it all slipping away from Aaron and the Pack? Those are the questions. We've got the answers as we get up with